Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat and today I am doing my February wrap-up part 2. So I read 8 books in the second half of February. I did read my favorite book of the year so far, so yeah, look forward to that. Okay, let's just go ahead and get right on into it. So the first book that I read in the second half of Feb is Rabbit by Patricia Williams, aka Miss Pat. Now you may know Miss Pat because she is a comedian. This book it read like a movie. I can't believe, I'm sure it did happen, but I can't believe all of this stuff happened. So she was raised in an incredibly poor family, very, very poor, and she gets pregnant very young by someone who is much, much older than her, and she decides to keep the baby. So by the time she's 14 and 15, she has 1 and then 2 children. So to support herself, she decides to start dealing drugs, and she makes so much money, and then she eventually goes to prison, and then she comes out, and then she eventually starts this trajectory into being a famous comedian. And I mean, it was just mind-blowing. And also some of the situations, like just the grit of this was so fascinating and interesting and heartbreaking. The only thing that I will say is that I think there is a bit of distancing. She's always joking and she's always trying to find something funny about a situation. So there weren't as many times where I felt truly connected to her as a main character. I'm more connected with feeling such empathy for the situation, if that makes sense. But overall, I thought that this was an amazing memoir, and I gave it 4 stars. So the next book I read is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, and I gave this 3 stars. So in this, we are following a newly married couple who has only been together within a year of their marriage when they decide to have a romantic night at a hotel, and there is a woman who believes that the husband raped her. It's just a case of wrong place, wrong time, and he gets incarcerated. And this is the story of how their marriage basically endures through his incarceration, and what he's thinking as time goes on, what the wife is thinking, what she's doing as time goes on. The reason that it gets 3 stars is I was really invested in the story before something major, I'm trying not to ruin it, before something major happens. And then after, I just thought that a lot of what happened was petty and drama and very much bickering. And I just personally, I don't really like family drama novels, so that's just not my cup of tea. So once it became that, it brought it down from a 4-star to a 3-star for me, and I almost didn't finish this book, but I was like, no, I will be darned if I don't get to put this on my books of the year, because I'd already made my way so far through the novel. I just wanted to finish it, but honestly, it was a slog. I don't think this was the type of story for me. I think that I just didn't realize what it would become. So I actually didn't end up liking this one, and I only gave it 3 stars, and I'm gonna stop talking about it for now. Okay, so then after that, because it took me so long to get through that book, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get myself out of this reading slump, and I'm gonna do what I normally do, which is read a romance. So I had on my shelves The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory. Now, I'm just gonna say it, this is the DNF, and I'm officially breaking up with Jasmine Guillory. I think that I gave her first novel 3 stars, and this one I just couldn't anymore. I find her writing style extremely juvenile and is based on cliches and assumptions and miscommunication. And all of those things together just make this a romantic writing style that I really don't like. So I don't think Jasmine Guillory is a romantic writer for me anymore. So we're just gonna stop talking about it. Done. Okay, so then the book that I was expecting to get me out of my reading slump dug me deeper into my reading slump. So then I decided to read something that wasn't even in a realistic genre. So I was like, I want sci-fi or I want fantasy or both. I just want something that is going to be exciting and going to draw me in. So I have been eyeing up Nicky Drayden's works for a while, and I finally decided to read The Prey of the Gods by Nicky Drayden. So we are set in a futuristic South Africa, and we are following many different points of view. So one of the points of view is from a young girl who isn't like other girls, but no, she really isn't, because we find out that she is a demi-goddess who basically can choose to be loving or wrathful. And yep, so that's one storyline, and I loved it so much. We're following another boy who is struggling with coming to terms with his sexuality and being a man and living up to his parents' and his grandparents' expectations. We're also dealing with this kind of AI system where people have personal robots, and they may or may not be developing kind of a sentience and a communication between themselves. We're dealing with a hallucinogenic drug which has dropped on the market, and we're following like one of the drug dealers who is helping to spread this. We're following a pop star who is really into helping people, but she also has a chronic illness. And we're also following someone who is the head of the public affairs office in the city and is dealing with an outbreak of diptychs, which are small small deer-like creatures. And so this is all tied together. It's kind of like battles between demi-goddesses and goddesses. So there's like this ancient aspect to it versus futuristic technology society where there's like gene splicing and an AI potential uprising, and it's all weaving together in and out, and it's like getting so amazing. And I just think that it just needed like an editor to cut out some of the chapters that I felt weakened it, because oh my god, her imagination is so amazing. The closest thing I can think of that reminds to me is like if you combined Binti by Nnedi Okorafor with Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor, and you just like were like kiss, now kiss, and you just like mashed them up. So I will be reading more by Nicky Drayden because I think the imagination is just like chef's kiss. Escaping Exodus by Nicky Drayden is very high on my list, honestly, and the cover is absolutely amazing. So I gave it 3.5 stars because I loved the content, and I just think that it got a bit sloppy, a bit messy towards like the end third, but I really am going to read everything Drayden puts out, so that was really an amazing find. So after that, I picked up Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams, and this one I buddy read with Jordaline from Jordaline Reads. Now, I gave this 3 stars, and I will be completely honest, it's because I really felt uncomfortable and was triggered by a lot of stuff in this book. One of the things that this character experienced is panic attacks and anxiety and depression, and those are all things that I have, and I didn't realize that that is what she was going to be experiencing. For some reason I thought it wasn't going to get as dark as it does, so I really didn't like the reading experience because I try not to read books that have those specific elements, so I was personally not having a good time. But the plot is following a woman named Queenie who's dealing with kind of her feelings and her own mental health journey. Like her boyfriend has just decided to put them on a break, and she is kind of sleeping her way through men and having a mental breakdown pretty much, and she's having issues at work, and she doesn't know like what she's doing, and she's kind of becoming kind of a hot mess character, but it's because she doesn't have a proper like support system. She doesn't have anyone to talk to. Kind of her family isn't really there for her. They don't really believe in like mental health as a thing. Like one of the things in here that was so painful to read about was like she was having severe panic attacks that facilitated like going to the hospital, and then when she's brought home into the care of her grandparents, they think that nothing is wrong with her, and they like make her do all these chores and all these errands when she's supposed to be resting, and it's like the poor girl just like can't catch a break, like honestly. So she gets into a worse and worse and worse situation, and that's very much at the point where I started to not like reading this novel. In fact, I think I should have put it down, but I wanted to tell you guys about it. So if this sounds at all something that's interesting to you, a Black experience, she's Jamaican, British, I believe. Yeah. her family hails from Jamaica, so it deals a lot with being Black in the UK and also dealing with mental health. But for me personally, I just found it very triggering. So I didn't have a good experience reading this, but I know that it's really subjective to me personally. I thought that this was going to be more kind of comedy about her dating mishaps. So I guess I didn't fully know what was going to happen. So after reading Queenie, I really, really needed a palate cleanser because I was feeling just honestly in a not good mental headspace. So I wanted something lighter, fluffier. And what do you think when you need something light and fluffy? You think YA romance. So I read Running with Lions by Julian Winters, which is a book about a all-boys soccer team who is training at summer camp, and an oddly high number of them are queer, if not all of them are queer. So we are following a main character, Sebastian, who when he shows up for the first day of summer camp, he realizes that his ex-best friend from childhood, Amore, is there. And they start out and they're very icy towards each other, and things ensue, and it was lovely. Yeah, it's just really lighthearted. I mean, I used to play varsity soccer, so I like soccer, I like summer camp, I like queerness, I like, love, and I like summer. Also, it's very slow burn, and it's best friends, ex-best friends, enemies to friends to lovers, and I was just I love it so much. I love it so much. So it was really good. The reason it gets 3.5 instead of higher though is because there's also quite a lot of bullying of one girl who is the coach's daughter, and everyone pretty much lets it go, and that also was not cool. I don't know why that was cool. In the end, she gives the person who's her bully some comeuppance, but I just hated reading that throughout the book. So that's why it kind of gets 3.5, as well as the writing style I think is a little juvenile even for YA. But if you're looking for something that's fluffy and very inclusive and just will warm your heart, and also it's kind of a summery soccer read, then this would be for you. Alright, so I have 2 more books to talk about, and this next one is my current leader for best book of the year. I don't know how more people aren't talking about it. Everyone is sleeping. Wake up. Wake up, because this book is so amazing, and if you learn anything from all the books that I've read so far this year, it's that you need to read this god-darn book, please. So this book is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. Holy crap, you guys. This book, I just want to preface it by saying this book is a very serious book dealing with some very serious topics. It's not a lighthearted book at all. And the ending had me crying so hard. I was sobbing, couldn't do any more work for the day, had to take a bath, had to take a shower, and I was still all swollen faced by the time my husband got home from work. So, this is not light reading, but it is so good and important. So in this book, we are following a main character who's had one best friend her whole life, and the best friend's name is Monday. And one day, Monday doesn't show up to school, and so she's like, that's weird, where's my best friend? So she goes looking for her best friend, and she just cannot find Monday. And she's trying to get people to notice, hey, Monday hasn't shown up to school, hey, has anyone checked on Monday's house? Because Monday's from a very, very poor area, and so her parents don't want her going there on her own. A lot of the administrators just kind of blow it off and don't check in. People who go as social workers might just not really check out the situation. They'll just say they went, but they didn't go. And so this is an examination of how I think a lot of minority children, and in this case, a Black girl, falls through the cracks of the public school system, and also the authorities who should be caring for children and for young people. Often when someone doesn't do their job, it could have really dangerous consequences. And this book flashes back and forth between times in the past when our main character and Monday were hanging out and doing things together, and just you're starting to see, oh, I'm getting upset, I'm just getting upset. You start to see things that a child maybe wouldn't notice, oh God. So then in the present day, when she's looking for Monday, she's starting to think about those things with new eyes and being kind of more critical of things that Monday didn't tell her, but that maybe she should have seen. And this book is absolutely devastating. So it just is so amazing. This is a library copy, but I will be buying this. Like, I always buy my favorites of the year, and this I cannot see not being on my favorites. It's currently #1. So if you are looking for a very important book to read, I highly, highly recommend this. It was so freaking phenomenal. 5 stars. So I almost never give 5 stars. Last year I think I gave like 1. The year before I gave like 2. So this is my first 5-star of the year. It is phenomenal, and I will absolutely be reading more from Tiffany Jackson. Wow, I have like a new favorite author, so highly recommend. Can't say enough about this book. So after that book, which just like tore my heart into a zillion pieces, I needed a romance. So I decided to read Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. So she was another one that I had never read before, and I absolutely fell in love with her writing. So she writes kind of historical romance where it is so intertwined with historical elements of the actual period that I learned so much by reading the romance book. So I love that about it. So this is set in the Restoration period, right after the Civil War, and we were following Valinda, who is a free Black woman in New York City who travels down to New Orleans to help out at a school, a public school, to help teach freed Black people learn how to read and write. So she opens up the school, and when the school is vandalized and she is being harassed, she runs into Captain Drake Levesque, who rescues her and then also is helping her get back on her feet. She's also promised to someone up from New York City, so he can't pursue or kind of court her as he wants to. So a large part of the book is like them getting to know each other and really wholesome building. And I learned also so much about the New Orleans Restoration period, where different things were happening and just the treatment of different people. And it's just like, what the actual heck? Like, after the war, things that had been said in the government, you know, weren't carried out through to the state level and then to the city level. And it's just like, of course, because that's the kind of stuff that happens even today. But just reading it, how it could play out, and like, people will die from lack of policy, lack of money, lack of funding, and it's just, gets me. Yeah, so I think the book, I personally, yes, it is a romance, but I also think it is important for historical reasons. So I quite enjoyed that, and I really like that Beverly Jenkins writes that way. And I know that she has another series which deals with spies, I think, during the Civil War, which I definitely want to give a read after having read this one. So highly recommend Beverly Jenkins. I gave this 4 stars, and yeah. So that finishes up my second half of February. I had a fabulous time reading Black authors in the month of February. Of course, I will read Black authors throughout the year as well, but I just want to really dedicate the month to making sure that I'm getting the representation in there and reading from voices that are not my own. So yeah, without further ado, I'm just gonna say thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you're having a fabulous day. Please, please, please pick up this novel. It is so important. Monday's not coming. Tiffany Jackson, do it. Okay, bye for now. Bye.